Who should actually buy the ASUS 2025 ROG Strix G18? Who should walk away? And does the price make sense for a typical gamer who just wants smooth frames and a nice screen? If you're sitting on the fence, you're probably wondering whether the massive 18-inch 2.5K panel is worth the extra heft, or if the RTX 5070 will actually give you a real edge in the games you play most. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's dig into the day-to-day realities, because buying a gaming laptop isn't just about quoting specs on paper, it's about fitting into your life without buying the wrong thing. First off, the G18 is built for a very specific crowd, players who need a desktop-class experience on the go, and who also want to stream or edit footage without swapping machines. If you're a college student who mainly needs a laptop for notes and occasional indie titles, the 18-inch chassis will feel overkill. The weight alone, roughly 6.5 pounds, means you'll be thinking twice before tossing it in a backpack for a commute. On the other hand, if you travel to LAN parties, game dev meetups, or you're a content creator who wants to game and edit on the same device, the sheer screen real estate and the RTX 5070's raw horsepower become real advantages. Let's talk about the screen first because it's the most immediate thing you'll notice. The 2.5K 240Hz display looks stunning on a bench test, crisp textures in open-world titles, buttery smooth motion in fast shooters, and enough screen space to keep a Discord chat open while you play. In practice, though, you'll quickly discover the sweet spot is sitting around 2 feet away. If you plan to use the laptop on a desk, the size gives you a comfortable monitor replacement feel without needing an external display. My friends who switch between a 24-inch monitor at home and the laptop on the couch say the laptop screen actually reduces eye strain because the higher pixel density means less pixelation when you're gaming close up. Now, performance. The Ryzen 9 8940HX paired with 64GB of DDR5 memory delivers what the marketing teams call no bottlenecks. In real terms, you can crank up texture settings in Cyberpunk 2077 and still stay above 60 frames per second, even with ray tracing turned on. The 1TB SSD loads worlds instantly, you won't hear the dreaded loading please wait for a while. However, the performance edge comes with a hidden trade-off, power consumption. When you push the RTX 5070 to max in a 4K render, the laptop's battery drains in under an hour. If you're used to gaming on the go for several hours, you'll need to keep the power brick handy. For most gamers who are fine plugging in, this isn't a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you value long battery life over raw performance. Thermal management is another area where the G18 tries to stand out. ASUS markets its ROG intelligent cooling as a way to maintain peak clocks without throttling. I ran a 30-minute session of Doom Eternal on high settings and the laptop stayed fairly quiet, with the fans ramping up just enough to keep temperatures under 85°C. The cooling system is a little noisy when you push the GPU to 100%, you'll hear a pronounced whine, but it's not obnoxious like some earlier ROG models that sounded like a hairdryer. The key practical point, if you're in a shared space like a dorm or a library, you might want to lower graphic settings a touch to keep the fan noise down. Storage speed matters for game installs, and the 1TB PCIe SSD is fast enough that copying a 100GB game takes just a couple of minutes. The downside is you're stuck with a single drive bay. If you're the type who hoards every new release, you'll need an external SSD for overflow, which adds cost and reduces portability. The 64GB of DDR5 is plenty for multitasking. I could run Photoshop, OBS, and a game simultaneously without any noticeable slowdown. That amount of RAM is also future-proof, you won't be swapping out modules for the next few years. On the software side, Windows 11 runs smoothly, but the ROG suite pre-installed can feel a bit heavy. There are several utilities for performance tuning, fan curves, and RGB customization. If you're a power user, you'll appreciate the granular control. If you just want a clean Windows install, you'll probably spend a few minutes uninstalling the extras. The keyboard itself is a decent mix of tactile feel and RGB flair. The key travel is enough for fast typists, and the separate macro keys help streamline streaming setups. However, the lack of a full-size numpad might bother those who also use the laptop for work spreadsheets. Now for the big question, is it worth the price? The ROG Strix G18 lands in the premium tier, typically priced near $3,000. At that level, you're paying for a combination of a large high-refresh display, top-tier GPU, and a laptop that can double as a content creation workstation. If you compare to buying a separate desktop GPU and a 27-inch monitor, the